Hey folks, how you guys doing today? If you have any interest in real estate, specifically residential real estate and real estate investing, you've heard these names before. Sean Terry, Max Maxwell, Chris Haskins, Jerry Norton, Brent Daniels. These are the 5 names that pop up every time you do a YouTube search of asking any question about real estate. And the reason for that is simple. All 5 of these guys have made and built amazing and very diverse real estate businesses over the years. And best for our case, their journeys have been all documented.
I'm gonna be taping the whole time. I got you.
So the one thing that people really don't or may not know though, is all 5 of these guys got their start doing what? That's right. They got their start wholesaling real estate.
Oh, wow.
And while they answer a lot of questions about the process of wholesaling real estate, very few, if any, have answered the question, what exactly is wholesaling in the first place? Well, that is until now. So here we go. Let's jump right in. Before I tell you what wholesaling is, let me tell you what wholesaling isn't. So first and foremost, wholesaling really is not unique to real estate. In fact, you see it every day. It's around us in every way. Have you ever heard of this little place called, I don't know, Costco or Sam's Club? Or what about that, your local car dealership? All of those industries and many, many more are all wholesalers of some sort or another. Wholesaling is not investing. Investment implies, when you invest in something, that implies that you put in a little bit of time, effort, money, whatever your resources are today, for a bigger return over time. That's not the case with wholesaling. Matter of fact, it's exactly the opposite.
Funny. I'd hope for the opposite.
And thirdly, wholesaling is not a get-rich-quick scheme. If you think that you're going to put a property under contract, quickly flip it, and then be rich for life, you're sadly mistaken. That is not the business. That is not wholesaling. Now that we know what wholesaling isn't, what exactly is wholesale? As I was preparing for this video, I decided to get some official definitions. So I went to Google, the definitive source of everything, and I typed in, what is wholesaling? And this is what they said. They said wholesaling is when a business buys goods from a manufacturer or distributor, warehouses those goods, and then sells them to another business. That is what Google defines as wholesaling. Now, yeah, I guess that is wholesaling, and that's kind of exactly what maybe a Costco does or a Sam's Club or even a car dealership does. But how does that really relate to real estate? So let me give you my definition of what wholesaling is from a real estate standpoint, using that same framework. Wholesaling is the process of finding an off-market property, getting it under contract for below market pricing, then turning around and selling your interest in that contract or that property to an end buyer for a profit. That is the process of wholesaling, okay? Now, with real estate, it's pretty unique in that with real estate, we have this thing called equitable interest. So when I say we're selling our position in the contract, that's what I mean. But long and the short of it, it really comes down to this. Whenever you put a property under contract, you then have rights associated with that property, even though you did not buy it yet. Since you have rights in that property, you can sell those rights. So I have the right to buy it. I'm going to sell my right to buy it. That's what I mean by assign or sell my rights to an end buyer. Okay? So one last time. My definition of wholesaling is putting a property under contract for a deeply discounted price. So I have the right to buy that property at a deeply discounted price. And then I'm going to sell my right to buy that property at a deeply discounted price to an end buyer, usually another investor. And they're going to pay me for my rights in that other property. That is what wholesaling is. Saying all that, I guess you can probably see that wholesaling is probably a really, really great way for people with little to no experience in the business and little to no money or resources in the business to make money in this thing called real estate.
Yes, 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 yes.
And you can do it without having any licenses or any other criteria or other things that you need when you have a career in real estate. So for instance, if you were going to be an agent, you would actually need a license to be an agent, which means you need to take courses, you need to find a broker, you have to go through all that other stuff. Well, if you're going to use this tactic of wholesaling real estate, you don't need to do any of that, okay? You probably should, but you don't need to do any of that.
I promise you and I invite you.
Wholesaling is also a great way for people to learn how to market for those off-market properties. Now, the ability to learn how to market properties is an amazing skill that will make you money long-term, and it's highly transferable. It's not only good in real estate, it's good across all industries. So if you can figure out how to successfully market for things, you can take those skills and apply them everywhere. So it's a very useful skill. Wholesaling is successfully solving a seller's problem. Now, I'm going to especially emphasize that. It's successfully solving a seller's problem. That's what wholesalers do. They solve problems. One of the solutions that they have is by buying real estate, or contracting or buying real estate that sellers have to help them solve their problem. Now, I might have suggested this already earlier, but again, wholesaling is not investing in real estate. But while it's not investing in real estate, it is a highly, highly paid job. I mean, wholesalers get paid a lot of money per transaction. That's just the way it is, right? Let me give you an example. Here in the US, I think we can understand that the typical wholesale fee is right around $10,000, especially when you're dealing with new people in the industry, right? $10,000 seems to be a nice target for them. Well, here's the deal. A typical wholesale deal will take 10 hours or less to complete of actual work time. And that's time when I say work time, I mean time actually speaking to the buyer, speaking to your end buyers, speaking with the seller, speaking with your title company, and all those other logistics that go along with shepherding a deal from start to finish. Takes you about 10 hours, should probably take less, but for our example, it takes about 10 hours. So if the average wholesale fee is, say, $10,000, and the average time it takes to close a wholesale deal is about 30 days, that means that in the process of 30 days, you've spent 10 hours on a transaction and you've made $10,000. That means your hourly rate at that point is about $1,000 per hour. Now, think about that. $1,000 per hour. Do you know anybody who makes $1,000 per hour?
Not me.
I know I don't, other than other wholesalers. I don't. That's just not, I don't get to hang out in that type of company with the exception of my other wholesaling buddies. Wholesaling is an extremely lucrative field, but it really comes down to this, your ability to market and contract under market properties or off market properties and get those things to close. Now that we know what wholesaling is, what wholesaling isn't, the next question really becomes this: who benefits from a wholesale transaction? Well, it's really simple. There are typically three parties involved in a wholesale transaction. There's the home owner or seller, there is the end buyer or investor, and then there's you, the wholesaler. So first and foremost, how does the seller benefit? Well, the seller benefits simply because you as a wholesaler have helped them solve their problems. Whatever their problem had, you helped them solve. Now, how do you do that? You do that by acquiring the real estate. This is very important. Rarely are sellers' problems initiated by real estate. Let me repeat that. Real estate does not typically cause the problem. Usually it's something else. Maybe a health condition, maybe a legal situation, I don't know. Whatever the situation is, the real estate didn't usually cause the problem, but the sellers are going to use the real estate to get them out of the problem, and you're going to help them with that. property investors, specifically real estate investors, really don't know how to value property. They don't. They just simply do not know how to value property the way banks do. Hey folks, how you guys doing today? Jimmy Roberts here. And after 30 years in the real estate business, over 20 years of that being in the appraisal business, the one thing that I know is for sure, the 5 biggest mistakes that real estate investors make that keep them from making big profits on their flips and in their investments in general. And I'm making that available to you. All you have to do is click the link below, and there you go. This is Jimmy Roberts. Get the 5 biggest mistakes that real estate investors make, and you can get it below. See ya. 2, the seller gets to sell their property without any fuss. Now, typically, a lot of the properties that we purchase are in bad shape.
Is that bad? It sounds bad.
It is. There's no realtor that's gonna list these properties. These properties are not MLS properties, right? They're not pristine, they're not pretty.
It's gross.
There's no homeowner occupant that's gonna walk into these properties and say, oh my gosh, I love the fact that it's got mold everywhere. This is gonna be great. It's not gonna happen.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
Right? That's where you as an investor and you as a wholesaler step in, because you have access to people that are willing to buy that property and make it gorgeous again, right? That's what the seller gets. What does your end buyer or the investor gets? Well, simply put, your end buyer gets an amazingly below market priced property that they can do whatever they want to do with. That's the thing. As a real estate investor, and that's where you're heading towards, as a real estate investor, you can't buy retail. Everything that you buy, it has to be discounted. Well, in the case of dealing with wholesalers, you get to buy properties that are deeply discounted. Right?
I want that.
Not only do you get to buy property that are deeply discounted, but you, as the investor, don't have to go around marketing for it. That means you get to save your time, energy, and money in doing the main thing. And in your case, the main thing is taking these ugly properties and making them pretty, right? That's what you get from it.
That's what you get for chasing your dreams.
As a wholesaler, what do you get? Well, ultimately, you get a couple of things. You get one, you get the experience of building your marketing chops, right? I told you earlier, marketing is an amazing skill that is transferable across all industries. So once you get good at it, you can transfer that skill to any other business that you work in. That's 1. 2, you get to hang around with people with money. What are those people with money? Those would be your end investors. Those are the investors. Those guys have a lot of money. They were looking for ways to spend their money. Duh, you want to be hanging out with people with money. Those are those people. And 3, and this is the thing that we were talking about that you want to get into this, the reason that you decided you want to get into wholesale in the first place. 3 is that check. That's right. At the end of the day, you also walk away with a nice big fat check. How awesome is that?
I guess we're rich now.
Now that we've talked about what wholesaling is, what wholesaling isn't, and who benefits from wholesaling, how about an example? So here we go. This is a deal that I worked on a little while ago. Recently, or during this deal, I got a call from a guy. He knows that I buy houses, so he gave me a call and said one of his clients had a house that he absolutely had to sell, and he had to sell quick. My type of deal. So I immediately gave the guy a call. Turns out, this person that I was speaking to was the guardian of the owner of the house. Immediately, I was put on guard. If you're the guardian of the house, why am I not talking to the owner? Well, turns out the homeowner was in a bad situation. He was currently in the hospital. He would never be coming back to the house. That's why he needed the guardian. The guardian's responsibility was to make sure that the state had enough funds to pay for this gentleman's long-term care, the homeowner's long-term care. That had to happen. Again, the homeowner was never coming back to this house. He could never live alone again. So he called in, he was looking for investors. Prior to telling my friend about this house, he had received offers from 3 other investors. Okay? So it's not like he was new. He received offers from 3 other investors. Let me tell you a little bit about the house. The house was in a very, very nice neighborhood. And from the exterior, it looked just like every other house. You'd never pick it out if you were just driving up and down a block. But once you got in, whoa, that's where the problem started.
Okay, here goes.
This house was absolutely filthy. Turns out the homeowner was a hoarder, and he was a nasty hoarder at that. In addition to being a hoarder, sometime during the time that he was away, he had a pipe burst. The pipe burst, sprayed water everywhere, and water was still coming out of the house at the time that the guardian was able to get to the house. Basically, the whole first floor and basement were soaked in water, and it took some time for the water to go away. Now, by the time I saw the house, there was mold and mildew everywhere. You walked in the door, you were immediately hit by mold all up and down the walls. Again, this house could not be sold by a local real estate agent. A local real estate agent wouldn't know what to do with this house. Why? Because there's no way the typical buyer is going to buy this house. It just required too much work. More to the point, the typical lender is not going to lend on this house. Why? Because it just needed too much work.
Oh no.
The only person that would buy this house is an investor. That's where I come in. My original plan was to buy this house and renovate it. That was my original plan. So I offered the estate $34,000 for the house. And in addition to $34,000, I agreed to pay the closing costs for the seller, and I agreed to pay the rear's taxes. They had some back taxes that they owed of about $3,500. So my offer really came out to about, even though I was offering them $34,000 cash for the house, I was ultimately ended up paying about $38,500 for this property. That was my total offer. Wouldn't you include everything else that I was offering for this house? The other offers that the guardian received, the max offer was like at $28,000. So you can see why they took mine, right? The other reason they took mine is because of this. One, the gentleman who recommended me knew that I could close deals. That's where reputation comes in. They knew that I could close deals, and they knew that I was easy to work with. I'm not a pain in the butt, and I don't try to squeeze every dime out of every deal. I try to do what's best for everybody in the deal.
Respect.
And in this case, I had some room, so while I was able to still make a profit on this deal, I knew that by offering the additional $4,000 or $6,000 in this case, the difference between 34 and 28, I was able to add a few more dollars into the estate's bank account. It was easy for me to do, and I knew I could still make a lot of money on the deal.
Yes.
So I did it. So once we got the contract signed, we still had some issues with getting the contract signed because, of course, the guardian had to go back and forth with the homeowner to get the thing done. That took about 3 weeks, which is about, 3 weeks longer than it should have taken. But ultimately, when that was done, we were ready to close. Sometime in about week 2 of that process where the guardian was trying to get the homeowner to sign the paperwork, I received a call from another friend of mine. He was an investor. He was just finishing up another property and he needed a project. He said, "Jimmy, look, do you have any projects? My crew is about to finish up and I want to make sure I keep them working." That's a very important thing and a very important consideration when you're running construction crews, because if you don't have work, they will leave you. So he was looking for another project to get moving on. I told him about this house. He immediately ran over, took a look at it, and immediately said, "Okay, it's a done deal." I said, "Great, I'll sell you my interest in the contract for $16,000. He signed the contract, and there we go. I sent a contract between myself and my buyer, my new investor buyer, to the title company. 7 days later, the transaction was closed. At the end of the day, the numbers look like this. Estate received a check for $34,973. Now, you might say, well, I understand the $34,000 because that's what you said you're going to pay, but where does that $973 come from? Well, what happens is during the tax proration process, the title company paid the taxes on behalf of the estate. And then when my buyer came in, they had to reimburse them. That reimbursement amount was about $973. So it was reimbursed to the estate. So the estate received a check for $34,973. The investor received an amazing property in an amazing neighborhood. Now you might be asking yourself, wait a minute, Jimmy, why would they pay $16,000 over the price that you had a contract for? Well, they don't really care, right? They got a great deal and they know they got a great deal. How do they know? Because while they paid $48,000 plus closing costs plus the back taxes, they took my position, remember? So they had to fulfill all of the promises that I made. Since they were able to do that, even though they were able to do that, they still got a property that once it was completed was going to be worth $220,000 at least. And we figured, my quick calculations, it would take about $85,000 to get this property rehabbed. Because my investor friend has a better crew, I'll be honest with you, he has a much better crew than I do. His rehab costs were about $75,000. So think about that. So for less than, let's call it $125,000, he would be into a house that was worth $220,000. That's a deal he's going to do every day, all day. So that's what he got out of it. What did I get out of it? I got a check for $13,500.
Wow.
Now I know you're probably saying, wait a minute, Jimmy, what do you mean $13,500? Well, I actually got a check for $16,000. That was the assignment fee. But what I did and what I always do is the person who told me about the deal also benefited. I made sure that he got a check for $2,500. So there you have it. The seller got their property sold and they got their estate funded. Not only did they get it funded, but they got it funded with more than they expected. The buyer, the investor, got an amazing property, deeply discounted, and they're going to make a ton of money on it. The guy who told me about the property, he got a finder's fee, a nice big finder's fee that all he had to do was make a phone call to get. And 3, I got a nice check and I was able to move on. So within 30 days, I was able to make over $13,000. Not bad for just making a few phone calls. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the benefit of wholesale. Now, you're probably asking yourself, but Jimmy, there's a whole bunch of steps that you missed, and there are a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't discuss. And all of those are associated with professionals that I use, starting with an investor-friendly title company. And you can learn more about that in this video right here. See you.